Picture this. You've finally done the right thing, right? You're saving money every single month. You move a little bit over into your savings account, maybe $100 here, 200 there, and well, you feel pretty good about it. You're being responsible, disciplined, and financially mature. But then, one day, you open up your banking app. You look at the screen and you just realize something incredibly frustrating. You have 10 grand sitting there, but your money isn't actually doing anything. It's not growing. You keep hearing everyone talk about investing, stocks, index funds, compound growth, and looking at that completely stagnant balance, you kind of have to wonder, are you actually doing money wrong? Well, welcome to This Explainer. Today, our whole mission is to tackle that exact feeling of frustration. We're going to map out the precise, entirely low-stress roadmap to help you comfortably make the leap from simply hoarding cash to genuinely building wealth. And we're going to do it step by step so you don't feel overwhelmed and, most importantly, absolutely without risking your foundational financial security. Okay, let's dive right into this. We're going to start by looking at the limits of saving, then the actual math behind compounding wealth, and how to overcome that deep fear of risk. After that, we'll walk through your actionable 5-step investing path, and finally, how to survive inevitable market crashes. All right, part 1, the limits of saving. Look, saving money is absolutely crucial, but it's not the finish line. It's really just stage 1 of the journey. Saving money does a great job protecting your cash, but let's be real, it's almost never going to make you wealthy. To see why, we just need to look at the math. Imagine you leave $10,000 in a standard savings account, earning a pretty typical 0.5% interest rate. You diligently leave that money untouched for an entire year, and you've made a measly $50. Seriously, $50. Your money is basically just sleeping. Which perfectly brings us to part 2, the math behind compounding wealth. This is what happens when you actually put your money to work. Now, what's really interesting here is the sheer scale of the difference over time. It's staggering. Let's say you find a slightly better savings account, earning 1% interest. Over 20 years, your 10 grand grows to $12,200. Okay, not terrible. But let's contrast that with investing. Historically, the S&P 500 has returned an average of about 10% per year over long periods. If that same $10,000 earned 10% annually, after 20 years, you're looking at roughly $67,000. That is a mind-blowing $54,800 difference. It's the exact same starting money, but a totally different universe of results. And that leads us to a pretty profound realization. The biggest wealth gap out there isn't actually between people who save and people who spend every dime. It's between people who save and people who invest. The real magic happening here isn't just snagging a higher return for 1 year. It's the sheer explosive power of compounding over time that completely separates the savers from the investors. Okay, so part 3, overcoming the fear of risk. Because honestly, the reason most people never make this transition has absolutely nothing to do with being bad at math. It is 100% about human psychology. Think about it. On one hand, a savings account feels so incredibly safe. You pull up your app, you see the exact balance, and it just never moves. It's perfectly predictable. But investing, oh man, that feels risky. It's an emotional roller coaster. The idea that your hard-earned money might randomly drop 5% on a boring Tuesday afternoon, that is a visceral, terrifying fear that sends people running right back to the comfort of their savings account. And you know what? That is a totally valid, deeply human feeling. Nobody wants to lose their money. To help kind of reframe that fear, think about this brilliant analogy. Saving money is a lot like storing seeds in a glass jar on your shelf. You can see them, you're perfectly protecting them, but absolutely nothing is ever going to grow. Investing, on the other hand, is like taking those seeds out and planting them in the dirt. At first, it looks messy. You can't even see the seeds anymore, and you certainly don't get immediate results. But over time, because you actually subjected those seeds to the elements, things begin to grow. And eventually you harvest something far, far bigger than what you started with. So, how do we do this? Part 4, your 5-step investing path. We're going to take this in gradual, super safe stages. No sudden moves here. Transitioning from the jar to the soil shouldn't happen overnight. So the crucial point is to follow these 5 specific steps. Step 1, build an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of living expenses in cash. This is absolutely essential to protect your investments from real-life surprises, like a sudden car repair. Step 2, mentally separate your saving from your investing. Step 3, start small. Honestly, platforms today let you begin with just $50 or $100 just to build the habit. Step 4, focus on simple investments. And step 5, Be incredibly consistent. Let's actually zoom in on a couple of these. Let's look closer at step 2, because this is honestly a massive psychological hack. You need to mentally separate your money into 2 completely distinct buckets. Bucket 1 is your safety money. This is that emergency fund we talked about. It does not move. It never gets invested. Bucket 2 is your growth money. This money is explicitly allowed to fluctuate because its one and only job is to grow over time. Mentally splitting these up dramatically reduces your anxiety when the market gets weird because you know for an absolute fact your safety money is locked away and totally fine. Now, what about step 4, focusing on simple investments? A lot of beginners assume they need to be out there day trading or speculating on wild crypto coins or hunting for the next massive tech stock. You absolutely don't. In fact, the simplest investments almost always outperform the complicated ones. Index funds, for example, track hundreds of companies all at once, giving you instant diversification and much lower risk. And hey, you don't just have to take my word for it. Warren Buffett, literally considered the greatest investor of all time, repeatedly recommends simple, low-cost index funds for almost everyone. You don't need some complex, exhausting strategy. You just need a proven one. And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate power of step 5, consistency. Check this out. If you invest just $300 a month for 25 years at an average historical 8% return, you end up with roughly $285,000. But look at the breakdown here. You only actually contributed $90,000 of your own money out of pocket. A massive $195,000 of that total was generated purely from compounding growth working in your favor. That is exactly what consistency buys you. Which brings us to our final part 5, surviving inevitable market crashes. Because we have to talk about long-term thinking here. We really have to address the elephant in the room, right? That paralyzing fear of your money tanking the literal second you hit the invest button. Listen, market crashes are completely normal, but we absolutely need to reframe how we view them. For a consistent, long-term investor, a downturn is actually a huge benefit. When markets drop, your ongoing monthly investments suddenly buy more shares at lower prices. It's like your favorite index fund just went on sale. This is exactly why experienced investors stay so calm. They are thinking in decades, not in daily news cycles. So, to summarize this ultimate paradigm shift, both saving and investing are absolutely necessary early on, but they serve entirely different masters. Saving money gives you stability. It gives you solid ground to stand on. Investing gives you freedom. You fill your stability bucket first, and then you relentlessly fund your freedom bucket to build a truly powerful financial future. So, I want to leave you with a direct question to reflect on right now. Looking at this whole roadmap you just learned, where are you on this path? Are you currently in that saving stage, building up that emergency safety bucket? Or have you already started planting those seeds and actively investing? Take a moment today to figure out exactly which step you're on and let that guide you to taking your very next step tomorrow. Thanks so much for exploring this topic with me.